This person said, I'm a teenager and I'm really struggling. I want to talk to a therapist, but my parents won't sign off on it. What do I do?
Man, that's a tough spot.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to be. As a teenager, there's so many things that you don't have control over in your life yet. That you're not a child, but you're not an adult, and you're kind of in this in between space, and you're in some ways kind of surviving things that you can't change while trying to figure out how to kind of continue to access and lay hold of and allow into your life the good things that you intuitively know that you need in order to be able to be whole and to grow. So a few different thoughts that I want to float out to you. For first of all, if part of the struggle that you're dealing with is suicidal ideation or kind of depression to a place where you are not sure if you want to live or want to sustain life, that there are resources that you can reach out to and access independent of your parents. There are hotlines that you can call and access. There are some states that vary state by state, but there are some states that actually have as part of their laws that a teenager can reach out and access therapy independent of their parents. And so that's depending on the state that you're in, you could do some research and see whether or not that's something that you have the choice or option to access, independent of whether or not that's something that your parents are supportive of or not. There's also other resources that are, potentially available in your life from school counselor in a standpoint that you could connect with, perhaps a youth pastor or mentor or leader, a coach of some sort that you can connect with and be able to have relationship with and kind of share and process some of what it is that you are experiencing or going through, to kind of reach out to the resources that God has put in your life that you can access. You may not be able to access certain kinds of help. You may not be able to access formal therapy, depending on where your parents are at and what state you're in, and some of the obstacles and barriers and even accessibility that may be there for you. But God has placed in your life people and resources that you can connect with, that He wants to use as a conduit of His grace into your life and into your situation. So I would be prayerful in that direction and just asking the Lord to help you have eyes to see kind of the resources and people that He's placed in your life, and to give you courage to kind of reach out and to take the risk of being vulnerable and sharing what you're struggling with or what you're going through with them, and allow them to be able to be a support to you and a resource to you. And perhaps in the process of uh, allowing them to be a support to you and a resource to you, they may be able to help you have a dialogue and a conversation with your parents also that might just help them be able to see things a little bit differently. Sometimes parents in a dialogue with another adult can see things a little bit differently than they can just when they're back and forth with their child. And so uh, maybe not, but maybe something like that could come out of that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Josh, what specific like suggestions would you give to this person, about talking with their parents? If they are struggling, I mean, that can be such a lonely space. So what, recommendations would you say to this teenager, about talking to their parents? How do you do that? How do you do it effectively, and feel heard?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would encourage you to try to continue to engage the dialogue. And part of the key of that is going to be having it be a respectful dialogue with them and trying to not just be heard, but try to hear and understand also. What is it that is the concern that mom and dad have around doing that? Is it a matter of resources? Are they concerned that they don't have access to that or can't afford that, or that it's not something that they have uh, as an option for them, in which case that may be like, oh, okay, so maybe it's not that they're against me get help. Maybe it's a fear or concern that they can't uh, access that, and which may give you some direction in terms of how to troubleshoot that with them and see if there's not options available that they're not aware of that could overcome that obstacle. Maybe it's something else that's kind of in the way for them, but try to get into their shoes as much as you're wanting them to get into your shoes, which is hard to do for all of us. But that doing so uh, increases the likelihood of us being able to have a dialogue that's fruitful. You know, that if we're just frustrated and hurt and angry and kind of want to shake our fists and be like, why aren't you letting me do this? And why not? And you don't care about me, and door slam and sort of thing. The communication gets cut off in a way that's really not helpful to us. One of the things that helps me when I'm trying to talk through things that are emotionally charged and kind of hard to talk through is I like to write out the conversation in my notepad beforehand. Like you'll sit down and, to this day, if I have a tough conversation that I need to have with somebody important in my life, I'm going to sit down with a pen and my notepad. I'm going to write out my thoughts and my feelings uh, prior to having that conversation with them, because writing through it and thinking through it in order to put it down on paper helps me find my words, helps me clarify my thoughts, helps me identify what it is I'm feeling in a way that sets the conversation up for success, helps me be able to go to them and show up the best that I can and trying to have that conversation. And so it's a really practical thing that you can do. And if you happen to have someone in your life, like an adult that you trust and that's supportive of you, it can be helpful to talk that out loud with them also, because they can share some perspective that you're not going to have on your own that can set that conversation up for success.